What's up, ladies and dudes? Jeremy here. This subject I've been meaning to address for a while. It's the subject or the topic of how to navigate friendships with Parkinson's. It can be very tricky. Friendships are difficult enough, as we know. Add a debilitating disease, it gets even more complicated. So I've got a few tips here, a few pointers that I want to go through just in my 10 years experience of dealing with this monkey on my back all the time. Point number one, don't expect your friends to understand it first. It's difficult. I mean, hell, I don't understand. I really don't understand why this disease does this to me. But give them time to figure out what your diagnosis means to you before they figure out what it means to your friendship. What I mean is, you're going to have new limits and new things you can and can't do, and you need to figure out yourself what those are. And it's going to be a learning process because there's going to be some days that you feel like you can do anything and other days that not so much. And your friends have got to be they're going to have to learn what the new you is, your new limits. This leads me to tip number 2. And I've experienced this personally. Some of them are never going to get it. I hate to tell you. Some of your friends, maybe your good time friends, I call them party friends, some of them are never going to be able to quite grasp it. I remember when I was first diagnosed back in 2013, January, I told my friend, one of my friends, I guess she was a party friend, I guess you could say. Somebody that came over and partied, had a good time friend. I told her about my diagnosis and she said, "Until you start shaking, I won't believe it." Well, that was difficult to take because I was living it. I mean, she couldn't see me. I would hide when I was off. Now I tend to be around and be more open to when I'm feeling bad, and if I'm feeling really terrible, I don't come out. But that kind of struck me as odd. And then, sure enough, she didn't stick around very long after that, maybe 2 years, until I couldn't work anymore, until I was having a lot of trouble walking. She, for whatever reason, it might not just have been me. I don't want to sound like everything's about me, but that was definitely something that was kind of hard to take. I had another buddy, several buddies actually, that I used to skateboard with a lot. I don't know that it was my Parkinson's per se. I think it was just we didn't have anything in common anymore. We always would go skateboarding together. See my skateboard back here? My good buddy Jeff gave this to me. So that was another reason that we just didn't have anything in common anymore. That was hard. That was difficult. This next one is very important. Your relationships, your romantic relationships, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your partner. This is going to be really important that you stay positive for them. They're not in your body. They don't know what you're going through. Try to stay positive and active, because if they see you getting down and won't get out of bed, it's going to bring them down too, and ultimately that's going to put a strain on your relationship that you don't really want. Marriage and romance and that can be tricky enough, much less throw in a disease like I talked about earlier that slowly whittles away your ability to move and think and things like that. So yeah, think about your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your partner, whoever it is. Think about them and realize how it's going to affect them, and that can maybe give you a better perspective on maybe what you need to do. Here's another one I feel is very important. Be willing and ready to talk about your diagnosis. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't really hide it from too many people. I hid it from neighbors and things like that. But my friends, I pretty much told right away. But you gotta understand, early on, your medicine pretty much does the trick, enables you to pretty much function normally. But as you know, as it goes along, the medicine becomes less and less effective or has more and more side effects, probably due to the fact that your brain is more and more disease-ridden, for lack of a better term. Which brings me to my next point. Educate yourself. If you're going to be able to communicate with your friends and family and your important relationships in your life, what you're going through, what to expect, you're going to need to know yourself. Education is the key with this disease. What I found out really early on was that exercise, that is really what's going to slow this thing down. If you just lay around and don't do anything, it's going to swallow you whole. So yeah, and then another thing I do is I use humor a lot. I mean, I educate myself obviously to know what the disease is going to do and what to expect, and kind of explain. I mean, not in too much detail, but explain to my friends and relatives and things I'm going to slow down. I'm probably going to get more and more shaky. I'm going to be more and more groggy as it comes along. But the medicine will help, and then it won't. Sometimes so I'm going to need some space sometimes. And I would say that for the most part, the vast majority of people have been very supportive when I explain it that way. Humor. Of course, humor. You know I love humor. If you watch my videos for any length of time, you know I've got a screwball sense of humor. I feel like that's sometimes the best way to disarm an awkward situation is humor. Now, in the past, I tend to blurt out things in awkward situations that are not funny and are not helpful. So I'm not talking about that. Yeah, if you ask my wife about that, I just have this almost like a knee-jerk reaction to break the tension when it gets awkward, and that's not always helpful. But in the case of Parkinson's, maybe you're having trouble getting something out of your pocket, maybe you're a little groggy, maybe you're shaky, maybe you've got your dyskinesia where you're having trouble stopping your movements. Make jokes if you can. I mean, obviously, it's not easy to make jokes about something like this, but that's been the real key for me to disarm the situation and make my friends and relatives and my relationships go, okay, well, I guess I can smile about it because he's smiling about it. That's very important to keeping your relationships open and honest, and make the joke first. And my last tip here is something I call the black dog. I heard that from Winston Churchill. You've got to know when you're in that black mood and that grumpy, woe is me, pissing in the wind kind of attitude, and you need to not talk to people when you're like that. I've made the mistake of reaching out to friends that were important to me when I had a bad attitude more than one time. This has happened more than one time with more than one person. And I just kind of wanted to spew my anger and frustration and my just basically disappointment with life. You can't do that. That will wreck a relationship so quickly, because when they see the phone ring and they see your number come up, they're gonna be like, oh God, is Jeremy gonna be in a bad mood again? So when you feel that black dog coming on, you gotta go to your room, do some meditation, read a book, take a nap. It's better to do that than, and this definitely includes your spouse or your significant other. Don't unload on them like this. You've got to be able to know when to share and when not to share. And when you're in that kind of black pissy mood, you're not helping anybody. So that's my tips. Love getting comments. Give it the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace and love from St. Louis.